So my name is Chitra, you see here, and the website is for the Canadian Light Source is www.lightsource.ca. In every slide, when I talk, I am giving the link. So in case if you have more questions you want to read by yourself, you can go to the website link. In every PowerPoint slide, I have some links. So you can take your time and read yourself as well. So the first part, I'm going to show you a few slides on how to write proposal, different things. And in the second part, we'll break for a little questions. And then the second part, I will log in and show as if you are writing proposal, okay? Then when you go to lightsource.ca website, this is the banner you see on the top, and user login, that as users of Canadian Light Source, this is the main thing you will be using a lot. So when we go to the second part, I will go there and log in as if you will be logging in and show you the steps. So what we are going to see today is there are different ways you can get access to the Canadian Light Source. So usually Canadian Light Source, we call it CLS in short. So the main thing you come for CLS is to get beam time or experimental time. So I'm going to show different ways how you can get beam time at the CLS. And the main mode of access is through general users, and you need to write a proposal. So that's what we are going to show you, how to write a successful proposal, which will go through the peer review process and how to select beam lines where you can conduct experiments. And what are the things you can do before and after beam time? It's a very short summary because here we are going to focus more on writing successful proposal. And I have some for agriculture users, if you are here in the webinar, a dedicated website which shows some example proposals and related information that may be useful. And at the end, I will open it for questions as well. Okay. So beam time, coming to CLS, there are different ways you can get beam time. The first and foremost is the general user access way. So at the CLS, you can write proposal as users of Canadian Light Source or CLS, and you get beam time if your proposal is good and there is beam time in the beam line. So the way to do it is, as users, you submit a proposal that will go through a peer review. It is an independent expert committee. There is no CLS staff involved. They will look at the quality of the science and they rank the proposal. And depending on the rank and availability of beam time in different beam lines, you will be giving beam time or you may not get beam time if the ranking is not better. It is more or less free. If you write a proposal which went through the peer review and you got a good score or a good rank and you got beam time, it's basically free, except that we make you to pay $1 in 8 hours. It's a very, can you please mute your microphone? Okay, thank you. It's basically free beam time. So when you come to the CLS, there is a lot of help. The scientists will train you how to collect data, how to analyze data, things like that. There is that second thing is purchased access. So this is mainly used by industries who want to keep the work proprietary. For general user access, when you submit proposal, the expectation is you will publish the work, okay? In purchased access, it's for proprietary work. You don't want to publish the work. The industries are mainly using it. And then for that one, there is a cost to the beam time, and there is no proposal submission, and there is no peer review. So companies or academic users who want to use the purchased access route, they pay CLS for the beam time and they get access. The third one is called rapid access. So the general user access is only open twice a year, right? Right now it's open in February and the next call will be in August. So it's a long wait time. You need to write proposal and wait for your beam time. When you are writing proposal now, February, your beam time will be awarded sometimes between June to December this year. So it's a long wait time. The rapid access is for fast work or proof of concept work. For example, you approach a Beamline staff here and the staff is not sure whether the experiment will work or not, and they want to give it a try with you. That is called proof of concept work. So you can talk to the Beamline responsible and you can submit a rapid access to do a proof of concept for a few samples. Or you have come through the general user access and then you are writing a paper now and you figured out 2 samples will be really nice to repeat it because the data doesn't look good, but you don't want to wait until July, then you can call that Beamline staff and Beamline responsible, and you can say, can I get access to run these 2 samples? So for like very few samples, and that way is called rapid access. That also doesn't go through the peer review. So today we are going to see a lot on the general user access. All this information is in this website. So if I click here, lightsource.ca for beam time, can you see the website? Can one of you say yes, please? Because last time they couldn't see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when, like all the links, like what I am showing is here, what I am talking is here. Okay. So that becomes handy. After the talk, we will share this PowerPoint file and the recorded video, so you can look at it at your own time. So today we are going to focus mainly on the user proposals, general user proposal, because you as graduate students or researchers, you are interested in accessing CLS, and you are interested to write general user access proposal. So right now the call for proposal is open and it closes on February 24th. It closes at midtime Saskatoon, so afternoon 24th. So don't wait until the night. Okay. So what happens is you are going to write a proposal, submit the proposal. Once it's submitted, it goes through a peer review process. Okay. So as I mentioned, the call for proposal opens twice a year, one time in February now, and next time in August. So if you want to run your experiments at the CLS for July to December beam time, you need to write a proposal now. But you can do your experiments in 2022 January to June, then you can wait for the August call. Another thing is, if you write your proposal now, and your samples are not going to be ready, still the proposal is active for 2 years. So in the CLS, one cycle is called 6 months. Okay, we allocate beam time in 6 months chunks. So whenever you submitted a proposal and if it has good scores, it is active for 2 years. So every time against that proposal, you can ask for more beam time. So if you are a graduate student, you can repeatedly use the same proposal to get beam time if it has good scores. So after you submit the proposal, it goes to an external committee, which is called the peer review committee. And they will give that review that proposal mainly on the scientific merit. They look at the area. So if you are from material science or agriculture or environment or health, they look at the scientific problem described in the proposal, and it's an important problem in the field, and you have tackled that problem, how you are going to answer the problem properly. So they look at the scientific merit and they give a ranking. So from 1 to 5, 1 means better and exceptional, 5 means poor. And also they give 2 scores, but mainly your proposal will be given by beam time based on the scientific merit score or ranking. Okay. There is 2 other categories they look for: suitability and team capability. Suitability means these experiments need a synchrotron. You have to, when you write proposal, you have to say, this is an important scientific problem. You try to use all other techniques to understand or solve the problem, and you need synchrotron and certain technique at the synchrotron to answer that question. So that's suitability and team capability. So when you write proposal, that you can list the team members or your collaborators and your principal investigator in the proposal. I need to make sure that you talk about their background capabilities and how they will complement the work. Okay. When we write the proposal, I can go in detail. And then they give a score, and then it goes to another committee called allocation committee. So based on the score, scientific score and availability of beam time, we start allocating beam time from the best score proposal up to we have beam time. And then once the process is done, you will get notification from the user office, and then individual beamline people, beamline responsible will contact you to schedule the beam time. So basically, this is what the process happens. You write a proposal, it will be peer reviewed, it will be given a scientific merit score, and then you will be given beam time or may not given beam time if the score is not very good. And again, as I mentioned, other than that, you can go through purchased access. Even sometimes academic users use this if you want to do some proprietary work, or you want to, you don't want to write proposal, you want some data, so you can buy beam time, and it's a fast access. You don't have to wait 6 or 8 months in advance. And then for rapid access, it's, as I mentioned, if you're writing paper or if you have to complete a thesis and 2 samples is missing or 2 samples data is not looking good, you can contact the beamline responsible. Okay, that doesn't go through the peer review. So what happens in the peer review process is, once you submit the proposal, first it goes through the beamline responsible. So we have different beamlines, and the beamline responsible look at it and say, this is the beamline, you have to run the samples for that scientific question, and it is suitable to be run in the beamline. It's just like a yes or no type of checkbox. They don't do anything else. Okay. So that's where I will insist again that when you want to submit a proposal to a beamline, the best person to contact, and you have to contact, is the beamline responsible. Once they say, yes, this proposal is fit for this beamline, then it goes to the external peer review committee. In the peer review committee, every proposal is scored by 2 peer review members, and then also they send it to a maximum of 3 external reviewers. All these scores, the average is taken as the score, scientific merit score of the proposal. And then at the end of the process, as users, you will be notified what your proposal scores are. As I mentioned, score 1 means exceptional, very good, and 5 is poor. So depending on different beamlines, some beamlines can accommodate proposals up to 1.8, some beamlines can accommodate proposal up to 2, 2.5, depending on the year, how many proposals come through, things like that. Okay. So we are going to focus how you can write and submit general user proposals. Okay. So most of you may be planning to submit a new proposal. You can submit a new proposal. Again, you need to contact the beamline for which you are submitting proposal for sure. So the scientist knows you are submitting a proposal and you are planning to run an experiment. So we'll see how to submit a new proposal. The proposal is a 4-part proposal. You will see when we log into the system. Also, you can attach a maximum of 1 page as an attachment. So any related information. You cannot put figures and things like that in the proposal. It's just a text based. So if you want to attach a figure or you want to include some more references, because there is word limit in the proposal, you can use this 1 page. Okay, new proposal. Another thing is for users who have already submitted proposal, but your score is good, meaning less than 2 or you got already beam time and you want to continue the work, you can ask for what is like a beam time request. So the proposal is active for 2 years. You can say my proposal is active, I want beam time. So there is a process you can do it. Another thing is if your score is worse than 2, I always encourage users to copy or clone your existing proposal, look through the peer reviewers' comments and address those comments or questions. So that way you can improve the proposal and resubmit as a new proposal. Okay. For example, even if you got score 2, some beamlines are very competitive and you didn't get beam time last time. I strongly encourage you to clone it or copy it and edit the proposal and resubmit as it is a new proposal. Then you get a new score. Okay. When you resubmit it, make sure you look through the peer reviewer comments from the past instance and address that comments. There also you can attach a 1 page in addition. For example, if you didn't get beam time in July to December, you write a proposal now, you didn't get beam time. Maybe your score was 2.2. You can contact the beamline responsible to run 2 samples. And then you can use that preliminary report as an attachment and resubmit in August for the January beam time to get a better score. So there are different ways. Another thing, if you know which beamlines you want to use, here this link will show you the list of beamlines. I'll show you. Okay. In case if you don't know which beamlines to use, you can contact me or I will show you contact information of different science managers that they can link you to with the appropriate beamline responsible. So as a new user, say like most of you may be new to submit proposal, you may not have an account in the Canadian Lightsource database. The first thing is you need to get a user account. Okay. So if you go to lightsource.ca, here if you click, you can create, I will show you, you can create a username and password and a CLS account. So the first step is you need to become a CLS user by getting a username and password. Once you get that, you can start drafting your proposal and at the same time you can contact beamline responsibles. Okay. In case you are not sure which beamline to use, again, or you have problem creating user account or you forgot things, you can always contact the user office. So their email address is here and their phone number is here. They can also help you a lot, especially if you have problems when you draft and submit the proposal. Okay, so we are going to look at 2 scenarios as if you are going to submit a new proposal or edit an existing proposal. So here, when you use your username and password, it will take you into a system like this. Okay, so the picture shown here, I will log in and show you in the next phase. So this is called the dashboard. So first page, when it appears, it shows your profile, like your credentials. When you create your username and password, it asks for certain information that will be posted here. And this is where you can create a new proposal, or you can draft a proposal, keeps on saving until the last day to review and resubmit. So those drafts in review or will be here, and all the once it's approved and you got beam time will be here. Okay, and there is some information on the Saskatoon weather here, because sometimes in winter Saskatoon is like pretty hard, -40. So if you are coming from far away and you want to make your plans, this comes handy sometimes. So here is the place you will create new proposal, the green box, and the blue box shows your saved proposals. And the saved proposals, you can edit it anytime and save it and submit at the end. Okay. So here you are going to see the different parts of a proposal. So there are 4 main parts. It's a simple system, and the main parts are the description, research team, beamlines, and materials. These are 4 tabbed parts. Okay. Again, you cannot insert any pictures you need to attach them as a separate one, but these are the main categories. And then when you click description, and there are different title, abstract things, subcategories. And when you click each category, you get some instructions that you will see later on. So if you click title, it will tell you what you should do in the title, abstract, description, things like that. So there are lots of instructions that come on the side in addition to what I am saying. That is pretty handy. At the same time, you have a scientific question. It can be solved using 2 beamlines. That you can submit, you can draft one proposal, but you can select more than one beamline in the same proposal, which becomes very handy. In the past, we have to submit proposal to individual beamlines as separate proposal. Now, if it is the scientific question is same, you can draft one proposal, but you can select multiple beamlines with different techniques in the same proposal. Another tips I will give, if I were you, save the draft more often. Sometimes if the browser crashes or closes, sometimes it may not save what you're editing in the proposal. So my habit I am developing is save as many times as possible so you don't lose any work. So this is the proposal, and then how to select beamlines. Most of you may know, depending on the element or compound you are interested, it gives you the energy and the technique, and then you can go and select the beamline, right? So there are different 22 beamlines at the CLS. There is a far IR beamline, which does a lot of gas phase spectroscopy, mid IR beamline, lots of organic bulk or microscopy, soft X-ray beamlines, tender X-ray beamline, hard X-ray beamline, 2 computer tomography beamlines, and there are 2 CMCF, protein crystallography beamlines. Okay. If you are a first-time user, you are not sure how to select beamlines, you can contact us. So I have given you all the contact details. At the end, I will stop a little bit so you can take all this information. So main user office, you can contact the user office anytime, either by email. And then if you are working on health science related work, Pavel is the manager, and you can email him if you are not sure which beamline to use. For materials, Feishu is the beamline manager. For environment and agriculture related projects, I can help you. And for purchase taxes or industrial sciences, Jeff Warner. Okay. Again, if you email another manager, it's okay. We are all connected very easily, and we connect you with the proper beamline responsible in case you don't know which beamline to use. Okay. So say like you wrote a proposal, you were successful, your proposal was scored good, you got notification from the user office, and beamline responsible contacted you to schedule beam time. So a few things, if I were you, I would do before and after beam time. So before beam time, make sure again discuss your experimental details with the beamline responsible. That will make you the chance of your success at the CLS very high. Plan and prioritize your samples. This is really important. Sometimes you will be given a chunk of beam time. Sometimes people come with lots of samples, but if you randomly run the sample and at the end, if there is a problem in the beamline or the machine is not working, you may not be able to run the samples you wanted to do. So I always prioritize my experiments as if the best important sample I try to run first, and then keep the least important samples towards the end. Plan your samples, and then there will be some trainings you need to do. A lot of these trainings are online, so you can read at your home institutions. That will save your time when you come to the CLS. And then after beam time, summarize your results within 3 to 6 months. A lot of the time, we collect data. If you keep it too long, we don't know what we collected, how to analyze the data, things like that. So it's really important to summarize the work. Also, if you submitted publication and it is accepted, update the CLS on a publication database. Because when you ask for next beam time, For example, you came for July to December beam time, you got some preliminary data. If you ask for beam time next year, it's important you can attach that one-page summary that this is my preliminary results and I'm going to continue the work. That will help a lot. So that's where like you can use the one-page attachment when you request for more beam time. Okay. Another thing, every year there is an annual users meeting, so you can present your work as graduate students or researchers there. There are poster prizes for graduate students, and you can meet a lot of scientists and faculties there. Also, there are workshops. So if you are working on a particular technique, there are detailed workshop on data analysis, things like that. So it will come every year, so keep an eye on that. Also, for graduate students and postdocs, if you got beam time to come to Saskatoon from outside of Saskatoon, your travel, like your flight tickets or travel money and accommodation is supported at the CLS. So there is a graduate students travel award. You can apply when you get beam time. Not in COVID time now this year, probably, but whenever you are planning to come, some of your expenses are covered. Also, there is a PhD thesis award. So if you are a graduate student, you use the CLS to collect data for your PhD. When you graduate, you can compete for that award as well. Okay. And then I have a dedicated website for agriculture users. So it's called agriculture.lightsource.ca that I will show you at the end. But now I will stop here. So if you have questions, anything on what we talked so far, I can take some questions and then I will show you logging into the system, okay? So if you have questions, can you please unmute and ask the question so I can try to answer?
I have a question.
Can you speak up a little loud, please? I cannot hear you. A little loud.
Sure. Could you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. When you submit the proposal, we need to have like a result because when for example, in my case, I need to analyze a structure, so I cannot have very details when I use just the X-ray. So I need to include some results in the proposal, or I need to just write about what is my project.
So if you have results using other techniques, you can say that you have used these ones, but it is not required. You have to have some synchrotron data when you submit the proposal. It's not required. Like you need to make a justification. This is your experiment. If you are a new graduate student, you may not have any results, right? But you can quote some literature, related literature. These people have done these in these samples. My sample is little different, but I will use these protocols, right? So it's not required. You need to have some results, but if you are new, you can quote proper references when we go in the description. I will show you. Or if you are using other techniques, or if your group has used other techniques, if there are some results, you can say, for example, you say, we used confocal microscopy. We looked at these, but the resolution is not good. So that's why we are coming to synchrotron. So, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
There is one question that in the chat. Someone asked if you could show some examples.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I see it now. That's a very good question. I will show you. That's where I showed the agriculture website. For agriculture users, we have put some good example proposals. Okay. So at the end, I will show you, even though it is for agriculture users, anyone can take it and look at good proposal. We have an submitted proposal which got good scores, and then even a template which with more references, how we will prepare samples, things like that. So that may be helpful for most of you. Okay. Yeah, definitely I will share you at the end.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the proposal is good for 2 years, which is 4 cycles. I'm wondering, is it for any of these 4 cycles? Or does it have to be like if I apply for the like July to December this time, does it mean that I have to use it for the same cycle next year, which is July to December next year? Or can I also use the January to June next year?
Okay. So your question is good. So if you submit the proposal now, the proposal will be active for 2 years starting July, right? But if you don't want beam time in July to December, when the beamline person contact, we call them beamline responsible. When they contact you, you can say my sample is not ready or I am not ready. And you can go in January next year and you can ask for beam time for that time. So for that, you need to ask in August. So if your proposal is active, doesn't mean you have to use the beam time. If your sample is not ready or your experiment is not ready, you can tell. But once you put a proposal, after 2 years, it will expire. But what you can do is you can clone that proposal and resubmit it, okay? So
okay, thank you.
It's very flexible system. Okay, last chance for the questions before we go into the real writing proposal section. Okay, there is one more question in the chat. Do you mean all the pre-results should be attached as a single page? Okay, so when you see the proposal that we will see now, you cannot include figures and things. So if you have figures as results, you can include in the attachment 1 page. But if you can write it, describe in the text, you can include within the proposal. Okay. You don't necessarily have to use the 1 page attachment all the time, but you will see sometimes the description is like word limited, 800 words, including references. So you may not fit everything. That's where I find the 1 page maximum is handy. Some people use it to attach references. Some people use it to attach figures because it cannot be in the main part of the proposal. But if you use words and it is within your word limit, you can include within the proposal. Okay. If there are more questions, you can continue to put it in the chat at the end. We can do it, and I can answer. Okay, so the next question is how detailed one should be with the science of the experiment or investigation. That's where we are going to go through, okay? So you can hold on to the question, but I will try to answer when we log into the system. Okay. So I'm going to the second part where it's like a live demo of how to write proposal. Okay. So let me share the screen. So I hope you can see my screen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to lightsource.ca, right? Can one of you say, can you see it? Yes or no, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So when you go to lightsource.ca, this is what you see, okay? And the main thing you need to keep in, it's very handy, right? At the top, it's a user login. The first step, if you don't have a username and password with the CLS, you need to create a username and password, okay? How to do it is you click here and it takes to you this page. We call it user portal. So if you don't have a username and password, you click new user and here you can complete everything and you will get a username and password. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. I have a username and password, so I'm going to use that. But if you don't have, use this one and create a username and password. Also keep it very handy because when you come to the CLS, there are different places. When you finish training, you need to use the password to make sure you accept that you finished training, things like that. So keep the username and password handy. because I have a username and password, I am logging in as myself, okay? So when you put your username and password, it takes you to the user portal. And this is how the dashboard will look, okay? Remember in the slide I showed, this is where your profiles are. If you want, you can edit it, but I'm not going to edit it. Okay, so I will go to the dashboard. And if you want to do, so there are some icons in the left. So home dashboard is always the first page that I'm going to do. But once you submit proposal, your scheduling and all, you can look through. We are not going to go through that. That's very easy to do, but let's focus on how to write proposal, right? So this is where create a new proposal is the place. If you are new to the system, you are going to submit a new proposal, you are going to use this one, okay? Once you start drafting a proposal, all the drafts will be saved here. You don't have to write it and submit today. You can keep on working on it. Your collaborators can review it, and you can keep on editing. So those draft proposals will stay here, and you can continue to edit them, okay? So first, let's see as if you are going to create a new proposal. So I click create a new proposal. So all of you who want to submit a new proposal will do create a proposal, and you are going to submit a general user access proposal. All the users, you will do these two, except if you are working on COVID proposal, but you are going to write a general user access proposal, right? You click on it and you have to give a title. So I will say test 2, and you click on it and say create, okay? Once you create, the title will come here, but if you want, you can change your mind and say, you can edit it anytime, okay? Another thing, any field with a star is a required field. If you don't complete that field, the system will not allow you to submit the proposal. So sometimes you will keep on submitting the proposal, it won't let you. So that's where it will, you will know that you haven't completed some of the required field. Another thing, if you see here, if you can see my mouse, remember I said any field, when you click, there will be some instructions here. You can go through, okay? So for title, they say provide a descriptive title for abstract. So this is where you have to say what problem you are going to solve, how you are going to solve it, and what the impact will be. So in a short summary. And that is word limited. Lots of the fields are word limited. So here maximum 200 words. So when you type, it will count the words. So that is very handy. So it will tell you how you can make it very concise and nice writing. And then here research subject areas is based on the NSERC categories. So if you are working in agriculture, you can select agriculture or food sciences, or health or medical sciences you can do, or material science. Depending on the materials, you can do physical or chemical sciences, or if it is engineering related, so you can do these things, okay? And then keywords. So some keywords that will describe your work, that is pretty straightforward. Scientific description is an important field. Remember, scientific merit is the important score. It has a word limit of 800 words. And this is where you explain your scientific problem, how this was dealt by other people or previously. And these were the questions not answered. And this is what you are proposing this work. And your experimental plan will look like this. Your samples, things like that. What questions you are going to answer, okay? So this is where you spend a lot of good time to do your specific objectives, how you will do the experimental plan, high-level plan, and expected significance, the protocols you will be following. One thing is, all the fields, you cannot use any picture or anything. That's what you will use the one page. And here you have to also include references, right? So everything included is 800 words. Another thing, special characters or symbols, sometimes it doesn't come very clear. So for example, micron, if you don't use the mu symbol, sometimes I write it out, micron. And if it is an equation, you have to use this format. Or if you are not comfortable using this format, you can write it in Word as a formula or equation, and then you can use it as an attachment. Okay. This is where a lot of time is required. And then economic and scientific, societal benefits. So why it's important in the field, what is the economic or industrial impact and relevance. Another thing you will see at the bottom, save and preview, right? So I would use save button more often because sometimes it's a browser-based software. So if it crashes, the things may not be saved properly. So save as many times as possible. So once it's saved, it's in the system as draft proposal, and you can always edit it. Okay. So I saved it. So the first page is pretty straightforward. The second one is research team. So whoever creates the proposal is automatically the spokesperson. Okay, spokesperson. They can edit the proposal, they can submit the proposal, they have every authority in this system. Second one is principal investigator. So remember I said you need to pay $1 for 8 hours of shift. It's like a very GST, PST protocol that you need to give. So if you are a graduate student, you give your professor name. Okay, or if you are a researcher and you have a manager who should be paying the invoices, then give their name. Okay, and then delegate is another person in the team who can edit the proposal. So spokesperson and delegate are the two people who can edit the proposal. So for example, you are a graduate student, you want your professor to review a proposal after you submit it. You can use their name in PI as well as in delegate. Okay, spokesperson and delegate are the two people who can edit the proposal. And then other team members you can keep on adding. And then if you have more than one member, you can use these ones and keep on adding, or if you want to delete. So this is pretty flexible. Okay. Another thing, source of funding, you have to select it and capability of the team. So this is where how many names you have listed up. You have to say name one. You have to write all the people listed up here in the team, and you have to say their name, their credentials or background, meaning I am a graduate student starting PhD now, and I will be working in this project, right? Second thing is if your professor is so and so, you can say he's a faculty in this department, has been working in this research for so many years, has so many publications, things like that. What the peer review committee is looking for as a team, the team is capable to answer what you're proposing. So technical capabilities, their experiences, how you can complement the skills. Another thing, if you're a graduate student and another postdoc is working with you, what your involvement will be. Say you will be collecting data, you'll be analyzing data, and the postdoc will give you some help on the side or things like that, or they will be doing theoretical work which will support your experimental work at the CLS. These type of things you have to take the time and write it here. Okay. Another thing is if you don't want, if you have a competitor or another similar person working in the proposal, you don't want them to look at your proposal, you can list that name. So when it is sent to external reviews, they will not be sent to that person. Again, you can go ahead and save it, right? Another thing, I don't know, you have seen it here. You can see here some of the fields, if I don't complete it, which is important, it shows here. It says, please fix the following issues before submitting. So it's really important. Whatever fields is incomplete, it will show you here. So you can look at it. So we look at description and research team, and the third one is beamlines. This is where it's really important. You know which beamline and technique you are going to use well in advance before you submit the proposal. So if you are a repeated user or you have people in your group have used the beamline and you know the technique, it's easy. But if you are a new user, you can contact one of us and we can connect you with the beamline you should be using for the question you're asking, okay? For example, I know a beamline I want to use. I'm going to do 3D computer tomography. So it's a biomedical and imaging beamline. So I can go and select the beamline myself. And then I know I want to do computer microtomography. So I can select the technique, okay? If you know, you can select the technique and their contact names are here as well. So if you want to get more information, specifically, I will show you how to calculate the shifts, okay? So you need to write here in the experimental procedure how you will prepare your samples, okay, your experimental plan. So if it is like something in agriculture and I am growing plants, I will say, I will grow 30 plants in a greenhouse. Out of that, I will take 10 plants and I will be looking in the CLS, something like that. And for each sample, you need to know how much time it takes. For example, I'm interested to look at 10 samples and each sample is going to take 1 hour. Then for 10 samples, I need 10 hours, right? One shift is 8 hours. So I can say, I don't want to put 1.5 shift. Probably I can ask for 2 shifts, which is 16 hours. You need to include the time for setup and learning time, right? Sometimes the experiment need to be adjusted. So calculate how many samples and you contact one of the beamline person if you know and well in advance how much time it's going to take for one sample and how many samples you have, and then calculate the number of hours, divide by 8 and request the shifts. Remember, this is for the first cycle. So if you are applying for beam time June to December, this is for the first beam time. And for next year, January, you can submit a beam time request in August to ask for the extra beam time. Okay. So here, take the time to make sure you explain the experimental procedure, how you will be making the samples, preparing the samples. And then justification for suitability is why it's really important to come to Canadian Light Source Synchrotron. Okay, so you can say, we look at in these lab techniques and CLS will be complementary, or you can say, we looked at all these techniques, we couldn't get the answer, and that's where we come to the synchrotron. Sometimes we say that you need like a lot of flux in the beamlines because the concentration is too low, below certain ppm, that we cannot use lab instruments to look at the spectroscopy, things like that. So you need to say why you're coming to the synchrotron, okay? So this is for one beamline, and in the same proposal, if you want more than one beamline, most of the time you cannot answer in one beamline. That's where you say you need another beamline. So you can say add facility requirement, and here you can add another beamline, okay? So I used the 3D, for example, I'm looking at the 3D of a seed. I looked at a 3D biomedical imaging therapy beamline. Then I want to cut the seed and do X-ray fluorescence mapping to look at where the ion is localized. That can be done in another beamline called BioXAS. So I can go and select BioXAS imaging, and I will say the technique XRF imaging, and I will say for I cannot run all 10 seeds. I am interested in 4 seeds. Each seed takes 2 hours. For 4 seeds, I need 8 hours. 8 hours is one shift. Again, if I am not sure how to calculate beam time, please contact the Beamline staff. Really, really important. Sometimes users write very good proposal, they calculate the time wrong, right? So these will be catched up by the peer reviewers. Like they always know something because they have lots of experience. And that's where, like, if you, in just a click, you say, I want to look at this. This is my experiment. I want to collect iron Zanes or iron XRF mapping. This is what my plan is. Can you tell me exactly how much time it's going to take for one sample? And then you can expand on that, okay? So here you can say how many samples, how you'll prepare samples, and things like that. If you have replicates, things like that, you can cover concentrations. If you know any information that will help, will be useful. And then this one you can click to consider a proposal for other beamlines. Sometimes same technique is available in a few beamlines. So if you click it, that means if you don't get beam time in one beamline, if there is a similar beamline and there is beam time, we'll automatically move it. I strongly encourage you to use it because same techniques are available in more than one beamline sometimes. And if you don't get beam time in one proposal, this comes handy. We can automatically move you to another beamline if there is time available. And then the next one is labs. So we have some labs. It's a very limited space. What we encourage you is prepare your sample in your home institution as much as possible. Okay. But some experiments you need to small tweaking in your sample, or you are doing some in situ experiments, you need to treat your sample here, and that's where you can ask for labs. Again, if you are not sure which labs to use, you can contact this Beamline staff, they will help you, okay? And when you select some labs, there are some equipments as well. So if you want to press a sample, there is an automatic press pellet. But again, whatever sample preparation you can do in your lab institutions or the home institutions, do it, please. But small final tweaking, we can do it here. And then if you have so you're applying for beam time and you know which ones is your treat time, meaning if you're growing plants or you're working with animal imaging, they have some preferred times. You can put them here so the beamline responsible knows when to allocate. And then if you are going for some vacation and at that time you cannot come for sure to the CLS, you can put those times and you can write a description. I'm going for vacation in September, I cannot come, or my samples won't be ready until September, right? This will come handy. The beamline responsibles will consider this, but we cannot promise all the time, because there are lots of groups asking for beam time. So we will consider it, but it is not a promise, okay? Again, save it. And the last one is a very easy section. So this is where you list your materials or the samples details, okay? If you have an existing proposal, those samples will come here. But if you are new to the system, you can add new sample. For example, say click add new. I'm going to say seed, and then I will say it is coming from UFS, University of Saskatchewan, and I will go and select the category plant, state is solid, okay? And then description, seeds, whole seeds, something like that, okay? And you need to type the quantity. So I say I'm bringing 10 seeds to CLS. All the samples listed here will be reviewed by health and safety. Until it is approved, you cannot run the experiments at the CLS. So list all the samples. For example, I am bringing seed and then I'm going to bring some soil. I need to write that, okay? So I have to write soil, things like that. Different samples have to be listed here. If they are same samples, but the quantities are different, you can adjust the quantity, okay? Once you select that, that is here and sample handling procedure. So how will you handle the samples? Say like you have to prepare the samples in the lab in the CLS and then you have to move it to the beamline. Those are things you're explaining here. Or you can say, I prepare the sample in my university, I will pack them and I bring them. I can just mount it on the sample holder in the beamline. But sometimes some beamlines, you have to use the lab to mount the sample. Those information, when you talk to the beamline staff, when you select the beamlines, it becomes very clear how you can write this one. So sample handling procedure, and then waste. So if it is non-hazardous sample, you can say non-hazardous, and you can say it can be disposed in a garbage, so I will be disposing at the CLS. Or you can say it's non-hazardous, I will be taking back to my home institution. I will pack it myself and take it back, or it will be shipped back to your home institution. Another thing, no waste is like when you take your sample back, right? If you are disposing at the CLS and if it is non-hazardous, you click here. But if it is a hazardous sample, you need to write how you will handle disposing the sample. Again, this is where the beamline staff also can help you. And then if you are doing special experiments where you bring something from your home institution to CLS, you need to tell them in advance. Either it's a mechanical equipment for in situ experiments or some electrical equipment. You have to type in the descriptions here and then you have to let us know. Okay. As you type along, you can keep on saving. Okay. And here you see two things only, save and preview. There is no submit button, right? So how will we submit it? So the main thing is once you are happy, you can go into preview mode. Once you go preview mode, whatever is not completed will be here. So you have to make sure you complete it. And this is where the submit button. Now, if I try to submit, it won't let me submit because I haven't completed all the required fields. Okay. So this is really important. And remember, I told you one-page attachment, that is also obvious only in the preview mode. So if you have a one-page Word document or PDF or a picture, you can go here, click attachment, type. If it is to a particular category, you can do it, or if you're not sure, you can put scientific. Every attachment will be attached, and you can say some name of the document and browse the document, something like that. So it's a Word file or some pictures or a PDF, okay? And then you have to upload it. You can upload it. And so now you can see that the document is attached and you can close it, okay? So only in the preview mode, you can submit or attach document, okay? So in the preview mode, you can go and look through your proposal, looks whether it's good or not. One thing is when you are editing proposal, only spokesperson and delegate can do it. If you want some feedback from other members, you can do Control P, like print screen, and you can save it as a PDF document. I find sometimes this is handy. You cannot save it in another mode. You can save it as PDF and you can share with your collaborators or team members who are listed in that. You can get feedback and continue to improve, and then at the end you can submit. Okay. So this is submitting a new proposal, and then if you have a saved proposal, say like you saved it today and you are coming back now tomorrow, it will be here, draft proposal. You can click here and you can continue to edit it. Okay, you can continue to edit it and save it. And then when you are happy and if you feel it's very good in state, you can submit it. Another thing, a lot of the time, sometimes beamline responsible can also give you comments. So if I were you, sometimes I write it early in advance and send a copy to the beamline responsible, or you can give their proposal number. So this is a proposal number. You can email the beamline responsible, say, can you have a quick look and give me any comments that I missed? That comes really handy because the beamline responsible can see the system as you are drafting. And if you have selected the beamlines, they can see the proposal in action. Or you can create a PDF and send it to them as well. Okay. The second one is you have an existing proposal, how to copy and edit it, right? Say you submitted a proposal, it got 2.2 score, you didn't get beam time last time. how to clone that proposal and go through the peer review committee and improve it is here. So you go to your My Proposals, and you can search by title or your name. So I'm going to search by my name, and you can use this search button. And for example, I'm going to look at one of the proposal. Okay, so this is my proposal. What you can do is, this was in the system. I want to clone it and improve my score to look through the peer reviews comments. So I can go and clone it. So I clone it and I create it, and I can edit it. Okay, so I can change it. I can continue to edit it and save it and then submit it. So either you can do new, or if there is system already existing, you can copy it and submit it again. Okay. So I will stop sharing here. Maybe one more thing. So the beamline responsible. So if you go to beamlines, these are the set of beamlines. Okay. For example, biomedical imaging beamline, you can go here, and they have the names here also of the contact people. Beamline responsible. Remember, I keep saying beamline responsible. Their names and phone number are here. And some beamlines, if you go to their web page, they have like for user guide how to write. So submitting proposal, tips for writing good proposal. You can spend some time here as well, right? Or you can contact them directly and say, here is my draft proposal. Can you look through and give me some guidance? Or how to calculate beam time, things like that. Okay. I'll stop sharing here and I will stop the recording here.